Thursday morning Awesemo.com betting show. I'm Ben Raza, joined partner in crime here, Jason Roslin. Football is officially over. We're gonna recap you boys, and then we're gonna get into some fun stuff. Obviously, we turned the page. We still have plenty of golf, college basketball, trade deadlines coming up, all that. A lot of things to talk about. But how are you, man? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Starting to sweat some early morning golf. As some people watching the show know, golf fiends. So ownership lock happened about a half hour ago, and we've got some good matchups kicking off in about 25 minutes. A lot of them today for our people that are watching live, and then we'll also, of course, try and put in some content that's more evergreen and will stay available for a couple of days. Hopefully, be able to use that information.
Definitely. Yeah, so as much as I'd like to avoid it, we will. Congratulations. They win again, the Patriots. I really didn't take I was sweating golf, in all honesty. I was so drained
Me too. Yep.
by the time the game started. We're not gonna spend too much time on it. It was somewhat uneventful, It was a ugly-ish game. The Patriots kind of did their thing. It's very impressive how they just always find ways. Even when guys like Brady, he wasn't super sharp, but when he needed to make a throw, it felt like he made it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, we talked a lot about the prop bet. The score kind of underwhelms the fact that of the prop bets, the over still hit.
First, yeah, I mean it was a weird game. I did pretty well on props. I know some of the stuff we talked about with Jordan, it went very well. Obviously, I was hoping for a different result in the game itself, but even with that, yeah, it was more that they just couldn't attack in the red zone rather than nothing. The Rams were stagnant. There's no doubt about it. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, but on the Patriots side, you're right. A couple miscues in the red zone, couple missed field goal by Gostkowski, who came in with that huge streak. So yeah, definitely. I actually, obviously, a lot of people when we get 70 and 80 point games, they're gonna hate games like this. But for me, being a Patriots fan, it was great because Bill Belichick devised the game plan to completely just overwhelm Sean McVay. And obviously, it started with the front four and the front six. Dante Hightower, Kyle Van Noy absolutely dominated. And Stephen Gilmore did exactly what he had to do, shut down Brandon for the most part. And, we talked on the show that Robert Woods would probably have a pretty good game. He didn't have a great game because Jason McCourty and Devin McCourty were able to basically take him out of it as well. So now you're leaving it up to Josh Reynolds, which we talked about a lot, that he's not Cooper Kupp and he doesn't have the rapport with Goff. And you were able to see, a bunch of nobodies for the most part after Patrick Chung went down. Defense was incredible, and it shows that, maybe the Rams, were just not quite balanced enough or just not quite good enough to be able to come through, or maybe Jared Goff, like you and Jordan talked about quite a bit. Maybe Jared Goff's just not quite ready.
Yeah, well, we'll see obviously where they go from here. A lot of teams in that NFC are right on the cusp. And during the summer, I'm sure we'll sneak in a couple NFL preview shows as we turn the page. But we do kind of transition with football being over. This is I guess a dormant period for some people before baseball gets started. But I do like it. Golf ramps up and college basketball gets to the best part of the year. We're certainly going to have a lot to talk about. Do you want to go to the golf? I know there's some guys on the course, but there's a boatload who aren't.
Yeah, so I think for the people that are watching live in some actionable content right now, there's some teeing off in about 20 minutes. The only matchups we're going to talk about should still be available at your books. I know the one that I'm using, they leave them up. So I think we'll start with those. We can go. There's only 4 20-long tournaments left in the book that I was looking at, so I think we can cover those quickly. The first matchup that for today is Mickelson and Reed, and we got 20 minutes. We'll cover that one in a bit. We'll start with the 4 tournament-long matchups. We'll start with an interesting one and then get to the kind of ones that are less interesting. Adam Scott, who obviously found his putter last time out, versus Brandon Grace, who obviously was hot in the desert in Phoenix. Really interesting one. It's basically a line. It's minus 105, minus 120. Where are you leaning in that? Do you have anything to go? I feel like Adam Scott long term is probably the better golfer. Although we've seen Brandon Grace, tie the major scoring record. It is a bit of a coin flip, but Adam Scott has the better course rotation. Do you see enough of a coin flip to play it, or are you staying away?
I'm staying away personally. If it was flipped, and you said the main point for me. If Grace had the good course, I would actually roll the dice and take him against Stott. I like him a little more in a vacuum, but he starts on Pebble. Scott gets that Monterey Spyglass to Pebble rotation. That's really what I was looking for this week. I didn't get to Scott in DFS purposes. He did find something with the putter. He's shown some life after that horrible start at Sony. But for me, it would have been Grace. I think I just stay away there. I found some other matchups, a couple that have gone off, a couple that we'll get to that I found more attackable.
Yeah, and I think one that I definitely found more attackable, and let's see if you'll agree with me here, is Russell Knox versus Andrew Putnam. We kind of got two golfers going in the opposite direction. Knox, 4 straight cuts, top 10 last week. Whereas Andrew Putnam, had that awesome start out in Hawaii. Really, he had a good start in TOC and then backed it up with obviously the really good finish at the Sony Open. Are you with me on Knox, or are you not ready to give up on Putnam?
Nope, I'm with you. I bet that line this morning. Knox, he has the right course rotation. I think he's playing better. Andrew Putnam, he did have some impressive showings. He was leaning heavily on that flat stick. I think he's kind of due for some regression. Again, I know this is going to be a common theme. I'm going to keep saying he didn't have the right course rotation, and that's not what I was looking to. So I took Knox this morning. I don't have the line in front of me, actually. I think it was around, a pretty close to a -110 on both sides. So I just think that
it moved to, well, of course, this is where book shopping, does become important. The book that I'm seeing is -130 to Russell Knox now. Okay. So you might not have been the only person as Putnam has moved to even on that notion. So definitely something interesting to look at there. I'm still, I know that's a little juice on the 130. They're not giving us a tournament spread right now. So it would have to be the -130 for me. Another one that is interesting, and my book has the guy that I like as the favorite, Kevin Streelman versus Ryan Palmer. And granted, Ryan Palmer has been great recently, but I think Kevin Streelman has a better course fit. I think they're both on good course rotation. I just think that juice for me, I think it's more of an even square matchup, and I'll take the juice in this one.
I'm with you. Funny, we did not talk about this before the show, but no, I bet Kevin Streelman this morning, -105. A staple. If you caught our show last night, I think we both are overweight on him for DraftKings, for FanDuel. Obviously, he's even cheaper there. I just like the way he's playing. He obviously loves this event, doesn't mind these courses. Everything really lined up. And it's not that I hated Ryan Palmer. It was just I saw more red flags on that side. I feel pretty confident that Streelman's going to give you a good return here. And yeah, Palmer has some upside just the way he plays. But I feel like more often than not, he's probably only playing 3 rounds in this one.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's definitely a guy that cuts sweat. He's one that is one of the most frustrating. So you can actually parlay those two for about a +300, +272. So I actually really like that. The last tournament matchup that I see available, I'm staying away because it's kind of a toss-up, and you could see this guy, as we talked about last night, get in the top 25 or miss the cut. And it's Taylor Gooch versus Michael Thompson. Michael Thompson's actually been playing pretty well. Was priced above him on DraftKings. He's getting 120. Gooch is laying 150. Does that interest you at all? Are you interested in going Thompson and looking at Gooch fading, or staying away?
Ultimately, I didn't get there. I did stay away. If I had to bet it, I would take the plus with Thompson. You said this. I think this is the point to highlight. Obviously, when you're playing a matchup, the goal is to just beat the other guy. And I think what you would see if you ran this a lot is Taylor Gooch smoke him, win by 5, 6 a lot. But more often than not, even with plus money, Michael Thompson may sneak by him. So that's
in a cut situation, yeah, where
exactly
Michael Thompson may finish 65th in the tournament, but he wins by de facto. And when you're betting tournament long matchups, that's really something that I found a little bit of an edge doing, is finding guys that can grind out a cut and finding guys that are boom or bust, because if they're boom or bust, you can deal with the top 20. In fact, you can hedge that way and bet them a top 20. But in all likelihood, you're going to end up positive if you're betting them over the long haul with cut grinders versus guys that are boom or bust. So definitely something to look at. So we've got a couple round matchups that are always fun and interesting. They give us a little bit better matchups, a little bit diversity. So the next one we get is Phil Mickelson versus Patrick Reed. It's a pick 'em. It doesn't matter which way you go. It's a pretty much a pick 'em either way. Phil Mickelson missed the cut last week. Patrick Reed nailed it in on Sunday. I think he had a 10 on the last hole, so it's pretty skewed. Maybe I'm not really looking at it. You think Phil Mickelson's found maybe a little bit of a plateau, and Patrick Reed we know is pretty steady. I know it's a round by round, but where do you think here?
Yeah, round by round is obviously tough. First thing, they're at the same rotation, so that's a wash. Both playing Monterey. I like Reed more this week, so I'd probably lean there. I will say that I worry more about Phil on the other two courses. Monterey should play the easiest. It's lift clean in place today. It's going to be lift clean in place throughout the tournament. And if Phil can keep it in play, get some preferred lies, obviously, I get that. But at the same time, I think you said it, he's plateaued. He's just so erratic, even round to round. We saw that perfect example was Waste Management, just out of nowhere missing that cut, where I feel pretty confident that Patrick Reed, there's always a range of outcomes with golfers, but I expect a pretty good performance. And even to get off to a hot start, I kind of expect Reed to take care of business in that one.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it's just in these type of, you deal with the ones that Phil goes crazy. 2 or 3 under, pretty consistent golfer. I think I'm leaning there with you. Next one I had that is coming up is one of your guys, Matthew Fitzpatrick. He's actually favored against Brandt Snedeker. That's a tough line for me. This is Fitz's first round over here. That tees off in about 25 minutes. Does Snedeker getting plus 110 in the line that I saw? I'm more inclined to go there because I'm getting the juice, and I think it's a toss-up, and we know that Snedeker can play in these type of conditions, as can Fitzpatrick. He's from England, so he basically grew up in these conditions. I think it's too hard of a coin flip, and I don't want to pay the minus 140 for Fitzpatrick. If I'm really dead set, maybe I'd go to the line, half shot, but minus 140 seems a little steep.
I agree. And this is where, stay tuned, as I always say. We have a lot of evergreen content coming out, and I actually wrote an article this morning. It was talking about break-even percentage. And at minus 140, it's not like, I split 1 and 1 and it's a wash. That's not how it works. Obviously, that added juice adds up quickly. So this is a situation, I'm with you. I have these guys pretty similar. I think that's a relative toss-up. So give me the plus 110, a slight advantage in terms of a coin flip. And I'll lean there and say, hey, if it's a 50-50 shot, I'm getting plus money. That's the move, rather than laying 140 on Fitzy, I think is a little much. Not something that I'd be looking to do.
Yeah, I agree. One that we had talked about last week, and this is one that I found really interesting because they're not playing together. They're playing different courses, and I think it's one that can absolutely be taken advantage of. And if I'm wrong, please correct me, but I have JJ Spawn not playing Monterey Peninsula first, and I have Matthew Jones doing so. So for me, Matthew Jones getting plus 110 against JJ Spawn on 2 different courses. Are you seeing that as well? And is that something you'd like to take advantage of as along with me?
So when I have in front of me, it has both of them at Spyglass today. Yeah, they play Spyglass, then PB, and then Monterey on.
Okay, so I have Jones wrong. I thought I had Jones at empty. Okay. So that makes sense. I was confused at why they would put 2 guys at different courses. I just have my my notes wrong then on Matt Jones. Now the matchup seems pretty similar though. Jones 13th last week. Getting juice. It seems like here that might be another spot to take it.
So for me, this is one where I kind of put him in that Taylor Gooch category. He definitely has the upside, a little more volatile. All in all, I feel a little more comfortable with JJ Spawn. Minus 140, not ideal again, but I would lean there. You did bring up a good point, and it's very rare. Books are pretty smart, but if you see something like that, you obviously want to take advantage, especially with a 3-course rotation. If you have lines, most of the books that I use and have, they split out their first-round leaders. But if they didn't per se, you would want to target those Monterey guys, you can glean some edges here and there with stuff like that.
Yeah. So the next two I want to talk about are two favorites, and see if you want to take the other side and get some very good juice, or if you're just gonna maybe take take a spread. So first one is Sungjae Im versus Ernie Els. The line right now is -200 and +165. And if you want to go to the shots, you can get -1.5 Sungjae Im and get the line to even. So if you're interested in that. What would you like to do with Sungjae Im versus Ernie Els today?
Bleh.
I know this is a tough one, huh?
It is a tough one because there's a part of me that does want to go to the Big Easy. He's playing well. I think Monterey's, again, it's the easiest course, and Sungjae Im kind of a grinder in my eyes to a bit. But having said that, I think I would just take lay the juice here if I had to. Maybe look to roll him in with someone. You parlay two of them. That's a pretty. I'm not looking to lay -200 on a standalone. But you could pair him up with another golfer, move that to plus money, and work it like that. I just think he kind of does his thing more often than not today. Obviously, you need to win this a predominant amount of the time because he is -200, but I think he does.
Yeah, and here's one where you can get it to +131. It's a great example. Another guy that I think is a clear favorite. I know that Graham McDowell has won here, but Paul Casey is just a much better golfer now, and probably over their career is a much better. He's -185, but if you go Im and Casey, you can get it to +131. So would you like to tail me on that one?
See, yeah, that's I think a good example of something you can do. Paul Casey, pretty consistent golfer. I know we haven't seen him a ton, but he's just in a different tier. Obviously, it's one round, and that is what it is. I'm not too confident on Graham McDowell this week. I know you just mentioned this. He has obviously some success here, but all in all, I think he's just in a different form, different spot in his career. I don't really see too many times where he's eclipsing Casey, even in an 18-hole sample size here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the juice is tough. Don't get me wrong, and they offer a line matchup as well where you can go get Casey, down to -150. But still, that's a lot of juice as well. I would take the Sungjae Im, and get it +131. I think probably your best bet. Any other match? Actually, there is one more I want to talk about because you and I think both faded him for the most part on DraftKings, and I'm talking about Matt Kuchar. He's going up against Davis Love, and Davis Love is +200, and if you want to get a shot and a half, it's +120. I actually took that this morning. I took both lines. I just think Matt Kuchar is plateaued, and Davis Love is playing pretty good golf, so I think that they're relatively comparable, and I think maybe Kuchar's lag from the bad round on Sunday may carry over. And I like the juice here. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the thing I'll say about Davis Love is I think he's going to make Kuchar, quote unquote, earn it. I don't think many times Love comes out and just implodes and it's a walk away. So if Davis Love kind of even hangs around, say he skirts through the cut, it's basically a way to short Kuchar, and you're obviously getting some good price there. More often than not, Kuchar's a very good player. There's no doubt. But in a week where I think we're both saying, I think there's a reasonable chance he does get cut. And I know that's aggressive, but if that's what you think, you can certainly look to a matchup for a guy like Davis Love and say, hey, if he middles, if he comes in 50th, I'm going to make Kuchar earn it. And I'm getting 2-1, or I'm getting a shot and a half, and maybe he gets off to a good start, and you can bank some money on the first day here.
Yeah, absolutely. So those were the matchups that I highlighted. Did you see any others that you just want to touch on quickly or that interest you?
Not really. So the two bets that I really liked this week, we just talked about them. It was Streelman and Knox. Those guys are staples of my lineups. What I think both of us will probably say, and we're going to be in slack as we always are, you want to not panic. If your guy started, say, on Spyglass today and he has a middling round, there's a lot of golf to be played, especially with these conditions. So I'm certainly going to keep an eye out for some numbers. I know you will as well. We talked about this with the Desert Classic. You can take a guy who maybe has Monterey on the back end at pretty nice odds, and then if he goes out and shoots 66, 65, all of a sudden he's right back in the tournament. Whereas these guys who go out today on Monterey, maybe they get off to a good start, but it didn't play Torrey South, which is what we were referring to a couple weeks ago.
For sure, for sure. I think all in all, it should shape out to be okay. I know the field's not great, but we should see Dustin Johnson and Jordan Spieth and Rafa. Hopefully, even I know it's a crummy tournament, but hopefully by Sunday we've got the players that we want to see in there, and it should shape out to be.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's not the best week. I don't think anyone is really saying that, but you can find little edges. Obviously, showdown content, which you've been providing, which has been awesome. You can take advantage of people not realizing the weather, the courses, things like that. And I didn't go crazy this week, so I'm not living and dying with every shot. And then we get ready. There's some big weeks ahead.
Yeah. So I think that can wrap up our golf first part of our coverage there. Now we've got college basketball is going to get into full swing, and Ben and I both love watching it and talking about it. But before we do you want to talk about anything else that we've got on the docket for this weekend or anything like that?
Sure. Obviously, with football being over, I keep saying that we got a lot of stuff coming up at the site. You can go behind the paywall if you sign up. We got promo codes and whatnot. We have all your articles, your projections, a ton of content. And then on the NBA side, we have the team over there. Everyone's doing great work. Producing behind the glass right now, Josh Engelman and Fast Eddie will be doing a trade deadline show in a couple hours. So make sure to see that. And then, on the betting side, we're certainly going to be providing a lot of content coming out, whether it's, some previews for March Madness, some baseball stuff, and then just some tools and ideas about, generic sports things. Because I think we both get a lot of questions of people who are, my state is legalizing. I've never really bet. What are some of these key concepts? We're going to be providing all that. So make sure you check that out.
Yeah, some evergreen content that, will just help the people that haven't gotten to do this yet or are, maybe not as well versed, will be able to. We're going to go into college basketball. We've got so many games on the docket. It's great. We're for college basketball fans, this is a perfect day. Thursdays, it's really Monday, Thursdays, Saturdays is kind of the college basketball. So we've got plenty of games. We can go all the way down to the Southern Conference and talk about Chattanooga and VMI. We'll chat about them. And then we've got some really good games like Indiana and Iowa and Cincinnati and Memphis. So some really good games on the docket today. I'm going to let you steer the ship first and let you talk about the game you'd like to, and then we'll start breaking it down from there.
Sure. So I'm actually going to go off the grid. I'm just going to give a quick plug to a game, and then we can get into a couple of those. The other game that caught my eye, I know you just mentioned Indiana and Iowa, was out west. We've got Washington against Arizona. They're going to Arizona. Washington is 9-0 in the Pac-12. I'm kind of baffled because they're not that good. They're really not. But at the same time, they're beating everyone who's on that schedule. They're going into the McHale Center tonight, and I'm predicting, you'll see my article being posted on the site soon enough, that they go down. Arizona, not the best team right now, dealing with a couple injuries. They lost Ayton and the entire team from last year. However, they've been playing hard. They just lost a tough game to Arizona State in overtime on the road. That capped 3 straight road games for them, and now they come home. I think that they get Washington at the right time. They're able to do just enough. Not going to need a ton of points in this one, in terms of where the score might land. But it's a virtual pick 'em. Arizona's +1.5. I jumped on that early this morning. I'll probably continue to buy depending on that line movement. I think that the Wildcats end this ridiculous run by Washington.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy because Pac-12 it's a pretty decent conference. I mean, Arizona State, who we'll talk about in a little bit, is a good team this year. UCLA is not bad. So in UCLA their record doesn't show, but in conference they've beaten both Arizona, gave Arizona State a game. So yeah, this one's interesting to me. It's a pick 'em on the line that I'm seeing right now. Let me see if definitely a close game. Washington 9-0. I mean, this is, like I said, conference away games. If this is a spot for them to lose the streak, it's either this one or at Arizona State. That's going to be coming up in a little bit. Yeah, it's a tough one for me on the pick'em side. I'd like Arizona to be getting a couple of points to just have a little bit of cushion, but obviously we don't always get that. So I'm probably going to lean here with you. Now, did you say, which is also always important? I heard you say an injury. One of the best players on the team, or
So both sides, it's interesting. I'll start with Washington. Guy in the front court, bad ankle. Doesn't look like he's going to play. He's currently doubtful. You know, he's not their
Dickerson?
lead.
Yeah,
Yeah, Dickerson, not their lead
yeah,
guy, but he is a little banged up. Then on the Arizona side, they've been messed up the entire year. Chase Jeter is back. He's the Duke transfer. He missed a couple games. He has come back, but their freshman guard, he's got a bad knee. He is not playing. I believe they have two Brandons. One's Randolph, one's Williams. I believe it's Williams who is hurt. Uh,
yeah.
and so that is a loss. But at the same time, I really just think that this is an Arizona team. They're young. They haven't played their best game, and they're coming home. It's just a tough spot for Washington. I feel pretty strongly that they're not going through the Pac-12 undefeated, and this is the type of game where you could get tripped up. Now, obviously, I'm pretty happy. I hit this at +1.5 literally an
Yeah.
hour ago, and it's down to pick 'em.
Pick
That
'em,
makes
yeah.
me feel certainly good, and we'll see where this actually ends up.
Yeah, I'll give Washington a little bit of credit. 4 losses. They got blown out by Auburn in the beginning of the year, but then they lost to a good Minnesota team by 2, a great Gonzaga team by 2, and then a very good Virginia Tech team by 12. So good. I mean, they're probably a little stronger than I had first looked at. Obviously, they've rolled off 9 straight wins, but they haven't played Arizona or Arizona State, which is obviously the cream of the crop here in this. Um, so they're getting them on the road the next 2 games. I bet you they lose both of them. I
Wouldn't be
think that they'll run
surprised.
this. Yeah, yeah. At this point, so now let's talk right about Arizona because they're actually getting Washington State at home. The line is 15, so seems like a lot to me, to be honest with you. But then when I look at how Washington State's been playing, they just lost to Arizona by roughly that amount or maybe a little bit more. So maybe 15 is not that much. And Arizona State is making a case for a solid tournament contender for a good seed, not just an at large. I mean, like a pretty good 3 or 4. Piling on the wins, it should help.
It's it's funny. I saw that spread this morning, and it did stand out to me too. It seemed like a lot. Arizona State is a good team. They're very talented. They have an all-world freshman, this kid Dort, very good. They got plenty of big guys. Good point guard. Very shifty. They're at home. I'll say this though, I do worry a little. They played a very emotional big game at home against Arizona. It went to overtime. They won it, so I'm not saying that they come in deflated, but at the same time, there is a little hangover effect. I would be really concerned if this game wasn't at home. I think if they had to go up to Pullman in Washington, that would be a recipe for a disaster. Because Washington State, they're not good, but they're not. It's still the Pac-12. They've got some talent even in this spot, I think Arizona State comfortably wins. But if I had to, I would take 15.5 is what I'm seeing on my screen. I think it's a lot of points for a game. I'm not sure Arizona State really blows them out in the way that you need to cover a line like that.
Yeah, and your options are not really that much. I know I've talked a little bit about buying some points, and I'm just trying to see how much that's even going to get. You're going to end up paying a lot of juice. Where, yeah, I mean, if you get the line down to 12, you're probably a little cushion. Obviously, I think that they end. But again, you're talking about. I'm looking at it here. If, let's just say you buy 3 points, you're paying -210. So it's just not worth it at that point. The points do scare me. Obviously, I think Arizona State walks away, breezes with the victory. But I think it's maybe more in the 8 to 12 range. I guess if we are going to bet, I guess we're taking Washington State with the points here. Is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to me, the Pac-12, the theme of this conference, and Washington has kind of defied it, I should say. I don't think that there's that much separation from the bottom to the top. Obviously, there is a hierarchy, but all in all, a team like Washington State, who is clearly towards the bottom, I still think night in and night out, they can give most teams a game. Not saying they can win, but at the same time, I don't think there's that big of a difference between them and some of these teams, Arizona State included.
Yeah, and they've stayed in some games in the Pac-12. Obviously, they're 1-8, but they've lost by over 20 a couple of times as well. So, yeah, it's definitely interesting. I just want to get their spread number so because it seems like they're probably 50-50 spread this year. Yeah, maybe actually a little bit. They're actually under 500 against the spread this year, so maybe interesting. Probably since we've gone back and forth, I'm not going to bet it. I'm going to stay away from it. I just think it's too much of a pick 'em game that I'm definitely going to bet, and I like this team, and I like this team going forward. Cincinnati, they're only given 4. They got to go to Memphis, but I think Cincinnati's the cream of the crop in that conference. Certainly, if you have conference lines for conference tournaments, they're probably the favorite if your site offers it. But I think this one, they're only giving up 4 points. I think it's definitely a bettable line. You want to tell me, or do you got some information on the other side to bet for Memphis?
Memphis is a weird team. Penny obviously has got that program excited. He's getting the recruits. They're not there yet. They're not that good. Cincinnati brings that blue collar. They rebound the ball. They do what they do. Good defensively.
Yep.
To me, this is just very interesting. So I'm looking at Ken Palm right now. You have Cincinnati with the 339th fastest tempo in the country against Memphis, who has the 6th fastest tempo in the country. So it's a game of tempo. Obviously, Memphis wants to get up and run. Cincinnati wants to play methodical. I think that more likely than not, Cincinnati is able to control this game, make it a half-court game, lean on the boards, not have to get into a track meet with a team that at home, Memphis is going to try to muck this game up. So the key for me on the Memphis side is, can they force Cincinnati to speed up? Maybe they employ some tempo, some pressure. I don't really think that's going to be too effective. Cincinnati's got a lot of guys, some experience, especially in the backcourt. I would lean there. To be honest, I may look, 4 on the road is not the best number that, you can be in control of the game and a couple fouls, a couple threes late, and you get nabbed. I may look to roll Cincinnati into a couple things, not lay the points. Let's see what they are here. I got Cincinnati minus 190 on the money line. That is an option. It's a little juicy, but I'm with you. For me, it's going to be something on the Bearcats or nothing.
Yeah, interesting. Memphis averaging about 82.5 points a game, and obviously Cincy defense is not that much, as you mentioned. Total of 150, which is kind of taking into account 6 versus 339, because obviously if Memphis was playing, say the 50th fastest team in the country in terms of game flow, the over-under is probably well over 160 at that point. So do you want to touch the 150, or do you think that's a pretty sharp line? I'm leaning towards the latter there.
It does seem pretty sharp. I think that even though it may be inefficient, Memphis is going to speed up the game. It may be because they fall behind and they just start really going. I could see it getting there even in a somewhat ugly game. So I'm probably not going to mess around with that over-under. I just think that I'm not sure Memphis is there just yet to handle a team like Cincinnati. You got to really clamp down in that half court and kind of beat them at bully ball. It's very difficult. They're a good team. I agree with you. In the American Conference, I think they're kind of the team you want to watch out for.
For sure. Next game, I love, and you and I have had some fun already talking about these lower conference games. Certainly, if you have a read and you watch these teams, obviously, there are so many college basketball games. Pick a few fun ones, and if you're getting into college basketball, pick somebody maybe that's close to you that you can kind of get behind so that you can understand the conference. But a couple of teams we've talked about this year, they're playing against each other for you this week. It's Detroit against Northern Kentucky. Northern Kentucky, 11.5. They're getting. Detroit's obvious.
Giving.
Sorry, giving. I wrote that backwards. I was like, wait a minute. Northern Kentucky's a better team.
I wish. If it back up the pink chalk.
Yeah. Tell me, can Detroit's freshman star keep them within 10 points, or is Northern Kentucky just way too good?
So Northern Kentucky, this is this interesting spot. They've caught a couple ugly ones on the road. They went to IUPUI and lost. Got tripped up again the other night. I believe it was Illinois Chicago. Don't have it in front of me, but now they come home to a place that they are deadly at. It's a lot of points. I'll say that. I was Yeah, Illinois, Chicago. Okay. I was hoping maybe 7, 8, 12. That's a lot. To me, the play is actually the over. I think that Detroit does enough. You mentioned they have a phenomenal freshman, can really score. Northern Kentucky, especially offensively at home, is very crisp. Drew McDonald, I think, is the best player in the conference. They've got some experience around him. I have a feeling that they win pretty comfortably. I'm not sure I want to lay the 12 at home, but I'm going to go over. I think Detroit does do enough offensively to continue to force that game up into I wouldn't be stunned to see it really get up there, actually.
Yeah, 147 seems kind of low. Detroit's averaging just over 5 games. So that's definitely something that I will look to tell you on as well. Fun teams, and like I just said, it's fun to get to know these conferences because you can pick apart lines, and you're gonna get so many options on Thursday night. Also Saturday as well. You're just gonna get tons of options. Another one that I looked at that I think is a really good game. Both teams coming off huge wins, and I think that that's probably why we're seeing the line we are. But I'm talking about Indiana and Iowa. Iowa has not had a great season. Indiana's battled back recently. Iowa took down Michigan at home, where Indiana beat Michigan State on the road. So both big wins. Do you see an edge here?
Yeah, man. Obviously it's a long season and we see hundreds
Sure
of
is.
games and you see some crazy ones. Indiana beating Michigan State in Michigan State after Michigan State was coming off a loss is right up there at the top of the most surprising things I've seen of the year. And now they're in a tailspin. They lost at Illinois. Neither here nor there. Iowa, I wasn't as surprised, to be honest. At home, they're a very, very good team. Michigan, of course, very solid, but going up to Iowa City is no joke. Now they go to Bloomington. I have a feeling that Indiana kind of keeps this rolling. They seem to have found something. Romeo Langford, we knew he was going to be great. He's starting to get some real help around him. So it's I see -2.5 on my screen. I'll lay the points with the Hoosiers at home and think they kind of start what could be a really good stretch to close this Big Ten season.
Yeah, we've talked about Indiana a couple times, and Langford is one of the reasons that a definite force to be reckoned with come tournament time if they can continue this run. So I'm also taking Indiana. That line to me, just I know they're both coming off good wins, but Iowa was at home. I think Indiana has. So another one interesting that is one of the lowest totals of the week and also a good game, or I'm sorry, not the week, is Penn State versus Ohio State. I'll let you set the table for this one.
So Penn State finally broke through. They had been winless in the conference, which is ugly, but they were able to go to Northwestern, who's, again, is Northwestern great? No, but they're good enough that, hey, a win's a win. They won one. Now they go to Columbus. I don't know exactly how good Ohio State is. Of all the teams in the Big Ten, they're one of the most confusing to me. They've got some talent, but they haven't shown that much. They had a big win at Nebraska a couple weeks ago. It turns out that Nebraska has completely crumbled. So I really don't know how impressive that was in hindsight. I actually am going to lean to the Nittany Lions here. You're getting a decent clip of points. I believe it's 7-ish. Let's see. Don't have
Half
it.
on the line that I'm seeing it. Yep.
Okay, yeah, 7.5. So in a game, you mentioned this total of 131. That's saying Vegas thinks, this is played in the mid 60s ish, a 65, 58 ish kind of pace. And I don't disagree with that. But all in all, I think Penn State, maybe they have found something. They've lost a lot of games, obviously, but they play hard. There's no doubt about that. Lamar Stevens is a true factor in a game like this.
Yeah, let's take the last games. Iowa, they lost by 7. Minnesota by 1. Rutgers by 4. Purdue by 9. Northwestern, they won by 7. So obviously they're keeping everything. Even if you go back before that, Nebraska by 6. Michigan, by 12. That's when Michigan was right there. So obviously they're keeping it relatively close. Ohio State, yeah, I'm definitely not sold on them quite yet.
They're a weird team.
They lost to 16 and only put up 49 points against Michigan 2 games ago. I mean, that's just atrocious. They lost to Michigan State at home a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, I'm not fully bought into them yet. Their biggest win of the season probably is at Cincinnati in their first game of the year. they've had some other good wins. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I think 7.5 seems like a lot, especially if the game is going to be played in the 130s. 7.5 seems a ton.
It's tough. Again, I kind of was talking about this with the Pac-12, and this is different. The Big Ten's a lot better as a whole, but all in all, you've got Michigan and Michigan State looked like they were just miles ahead of everyone. Michigan State has lost 3 straight. They just lost to Illinois, and Illinois is towards the bottom of the conference. So it just shows that these teams, you catch them on the wrong night or you catch them in their building, it's very difficult. And as you just referenced, Penn State plays hard. They don't roll over. Sometimes they're outmatched. They get up against the big boys. They have a tough sled. But Ohio State and them, I think, is truly on a neutral court. Maybe a couple of points for Ohio State. I think it's a relatively toss-up kind of game. And even though they're going into Ohio State tonight, I think they can hang just fine. I wouldn't be surprised to see that be a close game down the stretch.
I think that'll be a pretty good game, and hopefully, if it's on TV somewhere, it's probably on FS1. I think
Yeah, they get a lot of that or Big Ten Network. But you do have, I see on our, you sent a couple games you were looking at, and I know we've talked about some big matchups. Do you want to talk about, because this is more my speed, I like the real crazy teams. You have Chattanooga and VMI on the list here. Do you have a feel on that one?
Yeah, so VMI, I know they're the home team, I believe, in this game. They've been really bad recently. Chattanooga's they've been okay. So I don't know if this was just a one where the book said, well, VMI, Chattanooga's going to VMI, and maybe that's the only reason. It seems like a weird line to me, and these are the things that if you keep track of this type of stuff, you can kind of find. So did that stick out to you too?
So VMI is horrible. They're real bad. They play a crazy fast tempo. They just don't really have the personnel for it right now. You referenced that they have had relatively no success in the conference. I believe they have one lone win. Chattanooga is a team I've seen just a sliver of, to be honest with you. I do like that conference, and I have another game that I'm about to bring up right after this from that conference.
Nice, I like it.
I thought this would be more in the -3, -4 range, to be honest, for Chattanooga on the road. I was surprised to see it basically a virtual toss-up. -1. It is a little scary, when you go to another team's gym and these teams are not super talented. You see these things. I just referenced Northern Kentucky a couple minutes ago. They just lost to 2 teams that they're clearly better than. They were on the road, and this is what happens. But VMI is a really bad team. I have a feeling the struggles continue tonight. I don't love it, but I certainly lead to Chattanooga in this one.
Nice. Yeah, I'm going with that as well, and I'm taking it. You got another Southern Conference game you want to talk about?
And unlike those teams, one of these teams I feel pretty confident saying you're going to see in a couple weeks, maybe a month in tournament time. It's Wofford, who is 11-0 in the conference. They are going to East Tennessee State tonight. And I guess the theme of the night, you're going to get this. My article is up and ready to go on the site, so feel free to check that out. The theme of my night is these undefeated conference teams are going down. I think Wofford goes down tonight. They go to East Tennessee State, who's a good team, 9-2 in the conference. Certainly have playmakers. And if you look at their schedule, both of these teams, they're no pushovers. They've played good teams early in the year. They've held their own. They did meet early in the year. It was in Wofford, and Wofford dismantled them. But I really don't worry about that too much. These guys, both teams are in a different place right now. Key is Wofford's offense is one of the best in the country. It truly is. It's very dynamic. Eastern Tennessee State's more balanced. They want to kind of, they're not looking to push it and get crazy. I think at home tonight, they're able to kind of handle Wofford. I don't want to say easily, but I laid it. They're actually a slight favorite, and I was happily to lay the point.
Yeah, I think that'll be a fun game to watch because it's likely it's likely that you get these guys in the conference championship, right? Like, unless something crazy happens in the conference tournament, but should be a fun game to watch if you can find it somewhere for sure. Wofford does have one of the best. Yeah, you got to go.
Just viruses when you try to find these bad boys, but
yeah, this is a good one. So All right. Any other games in the college basketball slate that you want to talk about, either coming up this weekend or today?
Um, no, I mean today I will say real quick. Obviously, as we both always say, one of the amazing things about the site is Slack. So for any of our members, I see some friends of ours in the chat. What's up, Patty? What's up, Yeti? Some of the guys. Top in the sports betting channel. I will certainly be in there. We'll be talking. I have not broken down. You said it. There's a lot of games tonight. So some
Sure.
things may come up. We have some other sharp members dropping some picks in. It's a boatload of fun. I will say we don't have it. I don't have the line in front of me. I would just love before we get out of here. So Duke and Virginia play tomorrow. No, I'm sorry. They play. See, this is not Friday. They play Saturday. What do you think? Do you think that Virginia can get revenge? They went to Cameron a couple weeks ago and were not able to beat Duke. Now they get them at home. That's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it is. I think Duke is probably the leading favorite in my. If I would be betting the finals right now or the champion, I would be betting Duke at this point. I think they're too talented, and obviously they're the favorite at basically 2-1. Virginia is right behind them at 6.5. So it should be a fun game. But I do think that the freshmen of Duke, I don't think they care where they play Williams and Barrett. I don't think they care at all, and I think that they're going to really rise to the occasion here. And I think that Virginia, they're as close as they're ever going to get. But man, how abysmal was that last year in the tournament, man?
Not good.
Yeah, I don't expect that to be so much of a hangover. But I don't think they're ready to beat Duke yet.
It's such a yeah. Obviously, that was brutal. I certainly think it helps them in the sense of. I mean, clearly, I can tell you for one thing, they won't be overlooking anyone come tournament time. This is a big test for Virginia. They gotta not that they need a game because they're gonna be a high seed, both of these teams, but at the same time, they should not be losing to anyone in Charlottesville. I firmly believe that. They're an incredibly good team. They've got everything they need with Hunter, Jerome. These guys can play. They need to stifle Duke here. They gave them everything they could handle on the road. They're at home. They should be the favorite, and they should win the game. Talent-wise, obviously, Duke is going to have the advantage over anyone they play. There's no doubt about it, but it's a game that I certainly will watch start to finish, and I wouldn't be stunned to see them play again at ACC championship time.
Yeah, and if Virginia controls the pace of the game,
Yeah, that's
if you
the game.
take one of the two freshmen out of the game, I think they can win. In a neutral setting, maybe not, but maybe with their home crowd behind them, maybe they can get to it. So
It'll be
before we jump out of here, anything else?
No, I mean, I definitely, as always, we love everyone dropping in saying hi. If you could hit that like button, and certainly shoot us a message. With football over, if there's anything during the week you guys see that you want us to kind of talk about, certainly if we're qualified to do it, we're happy to. But there's so many games out there. I know that not this week, but as the regular season winds down, I think we can maybe do a special pod. We talk about some conference winners, pick because the way college basketball works, not the tangent, these smaller conferences, the conference tournament, the winner of that is going to get the automatic bid, and everyone else is going to be out. So I certainly think we'll spend a pod one of these weeks going through each conference, kind of talking about who we think may be the bid for each league, and see if they could do anything come tourney time.
Yeah, that would be awesome, and I think people would love that. So definitely look for that as conference time comes closer. We're getting into crunch time, so.
Absolutely. On that note, we're going to duck on out of here, go sweat this golf. But as I always say, if you have any questions for us, hit us on Twitter, hit us on Slack. We will be around plenty doing full golfed out breakdowns and some betting content as 2019 gets underway. But good luck, everyone. Hope you get off to a good start with the golf, and we'll catch you here next week. Take care.
Good show, guys.